to Motivated Results. So today I'm going to be doing a very quick cooking video. In order to expedite things, I'm just going to run through things very quickly. Today what we're going to be doing or working on or creating is going to be protein peanut butter cups. Now with that being said, the original recipe I came across was on Derek House Fitness. If you guys have not seen his channel, I'll go ahead and link it down below and you guys can take a look at it. He has tons of cooking videos, tons of great cooking videos that you can kind of take advantage of to spice up your current routine. That way you're not eating the same shit every single day. Now with that being said, a couple things to keep in mind. One of which is going to be that I'm going to be doing two variations of this recipe. One is going to be his version, the traditional version, which to me tastes more like a fudge popsicle. If you've ever had, ice cream with that very thick fudge flavor, that to me is what this tastes like. If you want the second variation, that's going to be the more peanut butter, traditional tasting peanut butter cup. And I'll make note of that when we're preparing it. Another thing to keep in mind is that if you are not a big fan of eggs, this might not be a recipe that you might like. This is a very quick recipe, and because of it, the base is primarily egg. So if you're not a big egg fan, or if this is something that grosses you out, you might not want to try this recipe out. I'm also going to be giving you guys a different number of variables and different things that you could use through this recipe so that you don't have to stick to traditionally what I'm doing. But also I'm going to give you guys different options as far as the containers and how you can do things. That way you can save yourself money on the long end, on the front end. And that's about it. Let's get to it.
Here we go. Alright, this is what you're going to need. A shaker bottle to mix all this stuff in. A muffin tin or the little paper ones, although the paper ones will be a pain in the ass. I'll talk about this a little bit later. You will need whey protein. I'm using Optimum Nutrition today. Hershey's baking cocoa. Liquid eggs, which I'm using the Costco brand today. And dark chocolate dreams by Peanut Butter Company. The regular peanut butter is for later, and I'll explain that. So basically, let's start weighing some shit out. So here I'm using the Costco brand liquid eggs. This ends up being about 4 or 5 servings if I'm not mistaken. It ends up equaling 305 grams. So basically, here's the macros by the way, just in case you guys are curious. A little bit of carbs in this one compared to the other stuff, but fuck it, it's cheaper. So 305 grams of liquid eggs. Then we'll use one tablespoon of the Hershey's cocoa. Then 2 scoops of Optimum Nutrition whey, which ends up being roughly 60 grams, give or take, maybe 61 grams. I'm just gonna throw some in here. I'll put the rest of this shit back in, that way I don't spill anything, but it is 2 scoops. Alright, so here we go. Next is gonna be, usually I would suggest for version 1, Derek House version, I would suggest doing 2 packets of artificial sweetener. I'm using stevia. 2 packets works pretty good for me, for my taste buds. For version 2, the peanut butter version, I would suggest going with 3 packets if you have a slight sweet tooth, only because peanut butter, in my opinion, requires a little bit more sweetener. So I'm gonna add a little more. Anyways, next we're gonna be doing the Dark Chocolate Dreams by Peanut Butter Company. If you haven't tried this before, it's actually quite good. It is peanut butter, but with chocolate in it. It does have a little bit more carbs. The fat's a little lower because I think that the peanut butter, the chocolate does kind of take over some of the properties of this. But essentially it is peanut butter, and it's quite good if you've never tried it before. If you're not a big fan of processed stuff, this might not be for you. It does have a couple more things in it compared to natural peanut butter. But this is the way I do it. You could weigh the spoon and then, do all that shit, but fuck it, I'll just do it this way. Just kind of pour little by little till I get my 2 tablespoons of this. 2 people. For version 1, Derek House version. Version 1, 2 tablespoons. Now if you are going to be doing version 2, what I would suggest is doing 1 tablespoon of regular creamy peanut butter. Today I have Skippy. And 1 tablespoon of the dark chocolate dreams. So you're going to do 1 and 1 instead of doing 2 of the dark chocolate dreams. You're going to do 1 of each. Simple enough. Boom. Do it. Oh, here's the macros by the way. And because there's so much powder here, what I'm going to do is add a little bit of water. As you can tell, there's not much there, and I'm not even going to use all of this. It's just enough to help mix it in, because there's already 305 grams of liquid egg whites in here, but it still does require a little bit more water just so things don't clump up, just so things don't end up being in the top of the lid once you shake it and all that shit. So make sure it's sealed, and basically all you're gonna do is shake it up. I would suggest doing it this way versus a blender, because if you use a blender, you will end up quote-unquote whipping the egg whites, and if you do that, you're gonna get a lot of air and foam, or whatever the fuck you want to call it, on the actual cupcakes when they freeze, and you're gonna be biting into dead air. It just messes with the texture of the actual cupcakes, fucking peanut butter cups. What the hell am I talking about? Anyways, shake it up, mix it up, and basically we're gonna be pouring it, depending on what you're gonna use, we're gonna pour it onto the muffin tin or the cups themselves. So basically this is the mixture after you're done. It's pretty mixed, pretty homogenized. Make sure there's no clumps. Make sure that none has stick to the top of the bottle here. And we're going to be using a tin today for those of you that don't have these. These are the silicone cups I talked about. They're reusable, washable, machine washable, all that shit. And they're great. I mean, if you like this recipe, I highly suggest you buy these because they're not that expensive. They're about $8. And it's a lot cheaper than a metal tin. And they'll last you a lot longer. And they're actually it's a lot easier to take them out as well. Here's a tin. This is a Teflon coated tin. And what I suggest if you use this, use a cooking spray. It's going to give you a little bit easier time when you're prying them out. I'm going to go ahead and pour them. So here we go. Poured. Boom. Here, as you can see, I used nonstick spray. I basically poured them directly into the pan. Here I used the tins because it makes it easier carrying it in and out of the freezer. And you can tell there is a little bit of spacing in between these silicone cups. So it does end up making a larger cup in the silicone versus the actual tin, because you can tell the levels are a little bit different. Now if you want to be fancy as fuck and you got a girlfriend who's like, you're just a fucking meathead, you want to be fancy as fuck and you want to show her that you can actually cook, check this out. I mixed a little bit more with egg whites and vanilla whey protein. Mix a little bit of it. I wish I had to blend a little better because you can tell the first cup is kind of mixing in. But if you blend it correctly, what it'll end up doing is you can do all kinds of fancy shit with this. Look at this. Look at that. It makes it look a little bit better, a little bit more presentable if you really give a shit about that. This does really nothing for the taste and does nothing except makes it look a little better. Look at that. Yeah, I've done that before. Wait, what? Yeah, so basically, here we go. Just spray it all down. All kinds of pro status with that. Look at that. Look at that. Yeah, the girlfriend's gonna see this and she's gonna be like, what? You're a pro at what? Alright, so basically put these in the freezer for roughly 4 hours, give or take. I usually do overnight. It's easier. So once you remove it from the fridge, it'll look like this. Freezer. 4 hours, give or take. Here are the silicone ones. Let me show you how easy it is to remove these guys. This is how easy this is. Peel, and boom, you're done. And if you can see, the bottom are actually really well done. The bottom is usually the last part to freeze. And with the silicone, it seems like it's a decent freezing all the way through. You'll notice a little different on the others. And let me show you let me show you exactly what this mixture does provide. What I am showing you here in this tin, by the way, is 2 servings. The left are the peanut butter, the right are the chocolate. And here's a cup comparing it to a whey protein scoop. So these are serious cups. These are very large cups. So you could stretch this recipe out and make 12 out of the one mixture. While here I have 2 mixtures because I'd rather have the big ass cups because I'm a pig. But I mean, you could stretch it out and make a lot smaller cups and you know, whatever, make it more treat like. I say fuck it, and I'm gonna go ahead and just make big ass cups. I usually just peel these guys from the silicone and just throw them in another freezer safe dish. That way you can just consume them as you like, but just keep in mind that you will have to keep these frozen because they're made out of a liquid base, and if you take these out of the freezer and you don't freeze them, they will liquefy on you and you're fucked. So throw them all in here, boom, making it easy, throw it back in the freezer. Let me show you how to get these out though. These other ones are a little trickier, but like I said, it is, you know, if you have one of these sitting around and you just want to try this recipe for the first time and you're like, I don't want to spend the money on these silicone shit, I might not like it, try it this way. Pour it directly into a Teflon. Make sure you spray the non-stick, by the way. Here I'm showing you guys a knife. This knife I have has a little bent tip, which makes this a little easier because it doesn't dig into the Teflon. I'm not asking you to bend your knives. What I'm saying is that this helps me, but in the end, if you were to slide these in closer to the cup and cutting the cup, you're going to have an easier time versus cutting the Teflon. And this is why I suggest, hold on, this shit doesn't want to get out. There you go. So as you can tell, not that hard to get out. It does cut into the cup a little bit, but the Teflon is somewhat safe. But that doesn't excuse the fact that if you do this recipe often and you use the same baking dish, eventually you will wear the Teflon, eventually you will cut into that coating, and you will ruin this Teflon. So if you really want these, and if you really like these, buy the silicone cups. Not that hard. You guys can find them locally probably too.
Like I mentioned before, guys, a couple things to note about this recipe is that if you're not a big egg fan, you might not be into this recipe. Secondly, if you do like this recipe, I would highly suggest that at some point you do purchase the silicone cupcake things, because first of all, it's going to make your life a lot easier. If you try doing this with paper, as I've done in the past, you'll find that it's very difficult to break the paper loose from the actual cups, and so that's a pain in the ass. And secondly, if you find yourself at the point where you like this recipe and you're doing it often, I would suggest you getting the cups, because if you do not, no matter how good you are with the knife technique, you will eventually wear the Teflon off of the baking pan. And in the end, that's going to be a lot more expensive than those little cups are. They retail roughly, I believe I mentioned before, I think it was $8, $9 on Amazon. So just something to think about. This is a recipe that you're going to find yourself doing a lot. It's going to be beneficial for you to buy these things. But that's it, guys. I hope this video wasn't longer than I originally wanted to. I try to run through things as quickly as possible. But if you have questions or comments, let me know. Once again, thanks again for watching. Feel free to hit like if you liked the video. And once again, thanks again to Derek House Fitness for the original recipe. See you guys next time.